Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity to present. So this is our topic. It's a conceptual topic. And I just want to explain the background to it. Lizeka, can you just move to the next slide, please? Yeah, thanks. So this all started, Lizeka and Bongi did the assessment course through CLTD. That I was facilitating. And during the course itself, we explored different technologies as a way to look at diversifying assessments. And one of the technologies that we went through, we did an overview of AI systems, or different AIs that are being promoted as educational tools. So we went through some of that. And that was really the spark for where this ended up here now. And we had these debates in class or during the sessions, during the workshops around AI and can it be used for assessments. The summative task for this particular course, as such, the summative task was that they needed to, at the end of 8 weeks, design an assessment using some of the tools that we had gone over, that we provided the overview for. And during the sessions, they've had a chance to play around with the tools and stuff. So they had to design an assessment, and it was, there's no judgment. It was a free space. It was a safe space to play with this, to explore it, and then take it forward into their actual practice. Okay. Since we've lost a couple of minutes and we're going to be pressed for time, I'm going to stop there and simply move on. Lizeka, are you back?
Yes, I am. I am so sorry. Load shedding and the generator would not kick in.
Of course.
Yeah, Murphy's Law.
Okay.
I'm so sorry about that.
No, that's fine. You can move on to the next slide and I'll hand over to you.
All right, perfect. Good afternoon, colleagues. My apologies for the technical glitch at the worst moment. My part is really just to take us through some definitions of AI. And this is not to go through them extensively, because I know that many would be au fait with a lot of the concepts, but for the purpose of just clarity so that we are all on the same page, AI, as we are discussing today, is basically a broad term for computerized or machine-based systems, which includes learning. And essentially, the idea is that they are intended to perform tasks, to solve problems, to predict, and perhaps be used in interventions. And there's a bit of activity reproducing of human actions, as well as amplifying or potentially enhancing human actions and activities. And effectively, AI can be categorized into 3 broad categories. The first is narrow, which is basically trained for specific tasks. And then the second is general or broad, which ideally the AI intends to be equivalent or comparable to human capacities. And then there's a super AI category, which sci-fi, superior, above human activities, and that's not really what we're talking about. So what we are talking about today is largely the broad as well as narrow artificial intelligence. It is important to clarify at this point that AI is what we refer to here as narrow and general. So as it pertains to some further classifications, we are going to look at robotics, which is basically machines that are typically called robots that are designed to perform certain activities. We have here iRobot or Roomba, which typically assists in cleaning. And then we have I work in health sciences, so we often talk about the CareBots, and these are robots that assist practitioners in caring for patients. And then we have machine learning, and this is a subfield of artificial intelligence of much interest because it includes softwares that are able to recognize patterns, to make predictions, and to apply newly discovered patterns into situations. And the idea with machine learning is that it's largely input driven. So there is some human intervention or input that is required. As we know, Siri, maps, we use all the time, as well as Alexa. So these are kind of the machine learning examples that we thought of at this point. But we want to zone in to deep learning, which is taking it a step further. And this is basically similar to machine learning, or in fact can be subcategorized under machine learning, but it takes it a step further. And the major distinction between the two is that machine learning requires the individual or human input, whereas deep learning can be sophisticated to the level that it does not require human intervention. And it can further be categorized into three, which is white box, gray box, black box, with the first two boxes being simple to an extent, explainable as well as transparent. And then we have the black box, which is the more sophisticated of the classifications, which has these self-learning capacities, the ability to conduct meta-analyses. And this is where we get into the space of unexplainability, where there is a limited ability to be transparent as well as opacity. And so examples here are the metaverse for deep learning, as well as, of course, ChatGPT. Specifically, our question is, can AI enhance teaching, learning, and assessments in higher education? And really, we want to look at how AI can, if it can, be integrated into the classroom setup. It's also very important, obviously, to discuss that AI is not a new concept at this point. It has been used, the virtual teaching assistants have been used, and really it becomes pertinent when there is an imperative for us to integrate it in one way or form into our curriculum. And this is really what we're interrogating. Should we, can we? And we want to explore that. So from at this point, we looked at just applying the AI classifications that are described above to the three categories that we are questioning. Can AI enhance teaching, learning, and assessments? And so for the teaching part of the table, we looked at the way in which AI can, in fact, facilitate teaching. And really the idea here is to complement and assist teaching. The reality is that with teaching, we have to talk about teacher bots or tutor bots. And basically these would be similar to the care bots that I described earlier, who provide a skill and deliver or facilitate teaching in the way in which humans would. The reality, though, is that teacher bots are not intended to replace human teachers, and we'll explore that later at the limitations of that. And then secondly, AI can be used to analyze class understanding and progress, and this can be done through the platforms that we typically teach on. We have examples like Coursera, we have Ulwazi, and the reality is that the benefit of these analyses essentially enable teachers to be able to be responsive in the way that they facilitate the teaching. And once you have a clear understanding of how students are performing, what content they are struggling to understand, you can then tailor make teaching for students to meet their specific needs. For the teaching, finally, AI can facilitate and manage discussions and engagements, and there's many platforms. We've just mentioned OneNote here. As it pertains to learning, certainly AI can facilitate learning, can essentially provide learning through the teacher bots, as is the case with the facilitation from the teacher's point of view. But I think one of the most interesting things and resources that AI can provide us is actually to supplement the lack of resources. And in the event where our environments, our teaching environments, are not able to provide the full scope of the resources that are required for the learning, AI can in fact assist in that. So providing resources, simulations, as well as intervention-based learning, potentially through using the metaverse, virtual reality, augmented reality. So imagine a situation where a particular group of students need to do a particular laboratory assessment, but they are unable to because the resources at the particular institution are not available. They can actually visit that and have an immersive experience through virtual or augmented reality. And of course, with assessments specifically, you can use artificial intelligence to provide feedback. With assessments, we use these platforms to test already on Unwazi, and we can also automate marking and grading, and we can also provide feedback using the platforms we use already, as well as examples such as Gradebook. And finally, and I think this is linked to that responsive teaching component that I had discussed earlier, it is important to track progress and performance of students, which you can also perform using artificial intelligence. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Bongi at this point.
Good afternoon. Thank you, colleagues. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
To continue, we are looking at the assessment task that we were given when we attended the CLTD course, which was conducted by Natasha, as she has explained, and also to take it up to see how practically the AI tools in the assessment are they performing. Looking at the requirement that we were given were to design an assessment which included curriculum alignment and visible thinking. If we can move to the next slide, please. And from Lizeka, if you can hear me, please move to the next slide.
Apologies. My computer froze again.
Sorry about that.
I am back. There we go.
Okay. The assessment was for information literacy program, which equips the researchers, students, the individuals with the ability to search, find, or locate needed resources or information and be able to use that information. Why that is important? It's because it influences the critical thinking and decision making across all spheres of life to that particular individual who are equipped with this skill. And it is a lifelong learning because we as researchers, we are continually updating our knowledge. This information literacy program, its framework is informed or based on international and national standards. It is also aligned with the university's core functions, as we know them: teaching, learning, research, and community engagement. With that, when our researchers, students, and the VETS community and institutions, communities, members are having the skill, they will be able to apply the skill that they have learned via the information literacy program to different aspects of life beyond their academic journey. It is also mapped according to the constructive alignment elements, which are teaching, learning activity, intended learning outcomes, and assessment tasks. This is to foster a comprehensive and effective learning experience to our students. So in other words, the purpose of information literacy program is to empower the individuals to navigate and thrive in a world filled with data and knowledge. Now, in our assessment, this course or program was offered by one of the faculty libraries to our first year students. It requires that students, they participate, they get involved, they engage. The content has 5 topics which are taught for 10 notional hours. And as I've said, it is mapped according to the constructive alignment, which is our curriculum development element. Now, with the teaching and learning material and tools that we use, I designed the program in terms of what I needed to offer the students based on those 5 topics. So what I did was to create the videos, the screen recorded videos using AI tools, and also the voice-over presentations. In this process, when I was creating the material to share with the students, I decided to use AI systems or softwares, but with a human touch. I will explain that as I go along. I created the screen recorded videos and also the voice over presentations, but when it comes to editing, I decided to do it myself instead of letting the AI to do it, while the tools that I use, they were equipped to do that. So I used the Microsoft Photo Video Editor. Then the lectures that I conducted were over 5 weeks, synchronized and asynchronous classes. We had both physical and virtual classes, which were AI equipped with the use of AI equipped tools via MS Teams and also Ulwazi Canvas. From the presentations and the videos, the material that I use to teach the students, then I created the quiz or the assessment, where students were asked essay questions using a quiz from Ulwazi Canvas, and also I embedded some of the questions within the videos. And with that, I technically didn't do it. It was the AIs that were doing the work. So that's how we got to work together. When I was doing the screen recording, the AIs were doing the work behind the scenes. And then when I doing the assessment, preparing the assessment and presenting the assessment to the students, it was all the work done by the AIs. And then this is the QR code. If you are interested, you can see one of the videos, one of the topics where I have embedded the questions inside the video. And in all this, you can see that AIs are there to assist and complement, as Lizeka is saying, but there is always a human touch. Lizeka will also talk to this as we wrap up this session, because the human touch, I saw it, it's there's no way you can do the work completely and say I'm just relaxing and AI is going to do everything. The human touch that I have encountered in this whole process was that however you approach it, you can be able to um, interact with everything that is involved in the AIs. If you can just move to the next slide. This is the feedback we had. Just one example that I've used here. Why, how, after what was the impact of the whole program at the end of the day? It was just that I can just mention one thing is to say we this is a skill that is needed or essential for all the university students, and it is practical. It develops some practical competencies with the students, and also it motivates students to engage with the library and the resources. It is interactive human touch. While the students could make use of AIs, we also on this side, we can make use of the AIs. I like what the other student has just said in the previous session. We need to get involved however way. My take is that the human touch, it says, I can start because I need my intellectual and critical thinking be involved in the process. I have a topic to address. I look at it and how am I going to do it and populate or do the write-up. And then maybe after that, I can check the assistance of the AI to see if my thinking is in line. Even if a person started, as one of the students have just said, it started by populating the topic so that the AI does the work, you still need to edit. You can't just relax and say everything is okay, because you can detect when something is done via AI. In summary, I can just say in this whole process, I saw that students have the opportunity to engage, to participate and be involved, because that is the purpose of the constructive elements, alignment elements. So they did not just have to use the AIs, but they had to look at the video, watch the video to get to the questions, understand the concept, and also be able to answer the questions accordingly by applying their critical thinking. Thank you.
Just very briefly, I did mention that AI is intended to complement and assist, but it is important to highlight the limitations of AI. With deep learning, I had already mentioned that there's the issue of opacity, which has ethical implications, but AI also lacks common sense, intuition, and imagination. And this becomes very important in the sense that we positioned that AI complements and assists educators and complements and assists learners, because the human element, as Bongi has mentioned, is in fact irreplaceable. There's a lot of communication, and elements of communication and connection that are important in the classroom scenario, and teacher bots do not have the capacity, the imagination, the intuition to engage with students at the level at which teachers are expected to, and so these are some of the limitations that AI has.
Thank you so much, Lizeka. Thank you so much, Bongi and Natasha. And thank you for your wonderful presentations on AI in education. And thank you, Lizeka, for raising the issue of ethical considerations and limitations to AI. Actually, I did have a question regarding that. But before I ask that question, I would like to perhaps give it to the floor. If there's any questions or burning questions from participants that you would like to ask, please raise your hand up. And any comments, if you have questions, you're more than welcome to type in the comment as well. I'm not sure. I do have a comment from Rita, but I'm not sure if it's for this breakaway session. She says, giving the student voices, how and when should we, is extremely important, because we as teachers wanting to prove our prowess in a complex area. Perhaps this is in another breakaway sessions. Is there any questions on the sessions that anyone would like to ask? Okay, if there's no questions, I don't know if I could maybe ask from my side just quickly, I think before we take any more time for the second sessions. I just have a questions, were there any sort of specific ethical considerations or implications that you encountered in your research, especially in terms of data privacies and bias in AI algorithms?
Thanks, May. Certainly, there are a number of ethical issues that arise from AI. I think it was touched upon in the last session that there's an issue of bias, right? Because AI, to an extent, requires inputs from humans, what the humans put into AI affect what the AI can do, right? And so a simple example is that it can pick up things that are effectively problematic, right? Morally problematic. It can make predictions that are wrong. It can isolate already marginalized groups, because effectively basically, when we say that it can reproduce what humans do, all of the issues that humans have can therefore be reproduced by AI, unless we obviously provide feedback in such a way that we correct some of these inherited biases. Of course, there's also the stupidity of AI, which includes errors, right? And these errors can result in, simple, negligible information being used through to having very dangerous predictions, especially when it pertains to applications in the clinical setting. For example, AI is used a lot for radiology. And so if radiologists are going to rely on AI to make diagnoses for them, that could be problematic. And of course, because practitioners use that, teachers of practitioners need to know how to use that and make sure that the input that goes in and the way that the radiologists are trained is in such a way that one, data, which is now patient data, real information, is secure. And then on top of that, that we aren't trusting AI, especially when there's the issue of opacity, as well as inherited biases, as well as stupid errors that occur within the system.